I have two sugar maple boards here. The one on the left is a live edge slab, finished on one side or milled on one side. On this side, live edge over on this side, but that doesn't matter as far as the drying goes. But it's a 2-inch or 8-quarter thickness. This one is a dressed quarter sawn piece of sugar maple, and it is 3/4 of an inch thick. So it is a thinner board. Thinner lumber will dry faster than thicker lumber, but both of these boards were milled out of the same tree. Now, when I go to check moisture content, there's a few different ways, different tools we can use. This is one type of moisture meter, and this is a pin moisture meter. So you can see these two prongs or pins here. They would go into the wood, and you'd press them into the wood, and basically an electronic nodes would be sent between the two pins, and that measures the resistance in the wood with specific gravity, and it would give you a percentage of moisture. Okay, that's one method, but the preferred method often is using a moisture meter like this. So this is a moisture meter by Wagner, and essentially it measures specific gravity. Okay, so it does all the calculations internally. You find out the code, the specific gravity of the species you're working with. So there's a little book, and it comes with all of the codes that you'd put in. In the case of sugar maple, I go to species, and the specific gravity is 63. That's the code that I would enter. Okay, so that's all I do. Now, even if I measure my hand, I read 32% when it's reading my hand. Okay, when I am full of moisture, I should be reading 32%. So thank goodness I'm reading 32%. This lumber, when it was green, would have read 32% as well. But now that it has dried, it's been air dried for about 2 years. When I put it on here, I'm reading at about 11, just under 12% moisture. Okay, and that's pretty good. That is about as dry as I can get with air drying because of the amount of humidity, the relative humidity in our atmosphere. Eastern North America is usually around that 12%. Okay, so that's about as good as I can get when it's air dried outdoors. This sugar maple over here is reading 7.8%, and that has been inside. So I air dried it outdoors, and then I have had it, it's been kicking around inside my shop for almost a year now, I suppose. I planed it, and I was going to use it for a project, and then I didn't end up needing it. So it's been sitting there waiting for the next project, but it has been indoors, and so that is a reflection of more the additional drying time it's had inside my shop, which is a little bit drier than it would be outside. Okay, but that just shows how simple that moisture meter is. It's a matter of making sure you have the specific gravity on, put it on your wood, and check. It's also interesting to note that depending on where I put it on the lumber, it will give a different reading. Usually it's a little drier towards the end grain as opposed to in the center of the board, especially if it's air dried. And it also will depend on the thickness. So this will read about a 3/4 inch thickness. Okay, so that helps me to get a good idea from either side on this thinner board what my moisture is. On the larger 2-inch board, in that case, I would take a moisture reading from both sides because that way I'd get a more honest reading of the entire board.